no toilet paper. You have a garden hose with a power nozzle. All right. That might on the
No. This is a look of intrigue.
It might on the surface.
That sounds weird on the whole.
It is. It is. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Strap in.
And welcome in to season 4, episode 15 of Unstable Discourse.
Yeah.
Damn, boy.
And we've already got
dog. Calm down.
Alex is touching the mic already.
Already.
Did I?
Yeah.
Come on,
Twice.
leave it alone.
You can see it out of the corner of his eye.
God, even before we started recording, I was adjusting things, and I could see Ryan just looking at he just can't ignore it.
Microphone.
Anyways,
I
we have
adjust my mic to the left.
he's going to give you a hard time about that.
Yeah.
Guests can do whatever they want.
Naturally to the left, yeah.
Guys, we have a really, really cool episode today. This is, I'm going to say it now, it's my favorite episode we've ever done.
It's not because Sir David Cope is with us, but that's a really good reason.
Cope is chilling over here at the table. Cope.
And just a quick side note about David Cope, in case you aren't plugged into his life. He manifested a real life Jolene. The story he told on his episode, a real Jolene came from that.
Yeah.
So that speaks to the power of that song. In which case, I'm going to try to manifest blowjob, 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 and just see what that does. Because why the hell not, right?
Wow.
Let us know.
Yeah.
It's a short list of people that can actually fulfill that. I think,
Yeah.
Legally.
They got to have tiny mouths.
All right. Let's do introductions here. I'm Alex, Seminary of Disc Golf Chicago. I'm here with Ryan Fancher of Unstable Disc Golf Gear.
Yes, sir.
Also with Sean Callahan of Delwood Disc Golf.
What up, y'all?
Jason Callahan of Bag of Tricks.
My voice is weird tonight.
Yeah. And our guest for tonight is a legend of disc golf. And I'm not even going to look at my phone as I list off the credentials.
Ooh.
He is a 17-time world and national title winner.
Off the top.
He is a multiple winner of Guinness Book of World Records.
Bang.
Damn.
He has his own podcast called Outside the Circle.
Biggity bam.
Mm-hmm.
He's the focus star of a documentary called Not Just a Shot.
Bada badow.
Author of probably the best disc golf book there is, Growing Up Disc Golf, an autobiography.
Ping pong.
He started playing disc golf when there was only one course in the world.
What?
He has his own line of barbecue sauce.
I'm listening.
Don't you dare. Really?
Yeah, I have all 4 in my fridge.
They are awesome.
I do.
I'm not even joking. We have them at our house. They're very good.
Me too.
And I think there's so much more, but there's one more thing, and it is you are the founder of Blue Power Disc Golf,
Most importantly.
where you make disc golf accessible to people with special needs, basically. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I'm actually thrilled to meet the one person who bought my barbecue sauce.
Well, there's 2.
There's 2 of us.
Both
have
of
at
you.
least
Yeah.
2 fans.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Scott Stokely.
What's his name?
Hello, everybody.
Nice.
We've-
Not Eric Stokely. Let's just clear that
Not
now.
Eric Oakley.
Not Eric Oakley. No.
Yes.
Scott
I've
Stokely.
been, I'll admit, leading up to this, I've been mistakenly calling you Eric every time you were mentioned. I was like, when are we doing that episode with Eric? And they were like, who the fuck is Eric?
Eric
And I
Stokely,
was
yeah.
like, no, his name is Scott. Scott. Now, if I accidentally call you Eric tonight, that's why. I don't know why I have it in my head. Your name is Eric. Sorry.
The moment it does happen, I'm going to have the counter. Bing,
Yeah.
bing. We'll see how many times it comes up.
We'll see.
There's a million things that we can talk to you about, Scott, and we don't have enough time in the world to cover all of it, but some of the things we're going to cover, actually, I'm not even going to let people know. We're going to just let it flow. We're going to be water. Everyone's got different things they want to talk to you
I'm
about.
excited.
Love your enthusiasm. And just for the record, how many episodes of Unstable Discourse have you listened to before?
I think I'm at probably between 45 and 50, plus or minus 50.
Oh, so give or take the entire library of our
He
episodes.
does
Yeah.
follow us on Instagram.
Hey,
He does.
I'm going to count that as a win.
You don't run your all your social media, right? Like you have a little help, or is it just you? Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
So, no, I do have help with my social media. I try my best to answer everything and answer and reply to posts and comments and questions to the best of my ability. It's gotten harder because the sport's gotten so much bigger, but I do my best.
I feel like there's a little time of day where you're like, okay, it's social media time, because anytime I've DM'd with you, it's like around 9 or 10 o'clock, I get responses from you like,
It's when
that's
I'm
when it
pooping.
happens.
Yeah.
Oh,
Smart
so
man.
you're pretty regular.
Between 9 and 10 in the morning. Actually, check this out. This is like one of the coolest evolutions of disc golf to me, is that with staggered starts, instead of the shotgun starts, you tee off, and the better you shoot, you later in the day you tee off. A first round is generally random. Well, this last year on the Euro Tour, they always had me on like the feature card or the chase card first round for coverage, and I played really well. I finished 6th place on the Euro Tour, which meant I teed off in the last couple of groups, which means I did not tee off before 2 p.m. this year
Wow.
on the tour. And as
Oh.
soon as I say that, there might have been 1 or 2 times. But
Mm.
not having to play disc golf in the morning at my age,
Pretty cool.
it's pretty
Cool.
nice.
See, we've started doing tea time since COVID, basically, and everybody loves it now, and we get more people in. But it is generally MA 70, MA 60, MA 50 first thing in the morning, and they can't wait. We have tea time starting at 7:30, and they'll already be throwing at 7:15.
Yeah, they want to tee off at 7.
Mm-hmm.
So at your age, this surprises me.
Well, he's not 70 years old.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm saying like he's mentioning at his age as if he is
Yes.
older, but you're still young at heart. I wouldn't tee off before noon if I had the choice either.
Yes.
So I think the reason why is when you get older, you try to squeeze as much in as you can because you don't know if you're going to be around at 3 p.m.
Right? Sure.
I
YOLO.
also try to squeeze as much out as you can, and that's why you're so
That's what you were
regular in the
saying.
morning, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
I have
coffee
told
talk.
people in my group. Well, I said this once, kind of joking, but then when I realized it made them uncomfortable, I've said it again. Yeah, by the way, no. There's a whole difference on the pro tour. There's no trash talking. There's no mind games. I mean, it's different. But at casual tournaments, then it's just friends playing frisbee golf.
Sure.
Mhm.
And I'll tell them flat out, look, the odds of me dying during this round aren't 0.
That's true for all of us.
Well, but when you get older, though, every single day, the odds of me not making it to the end of the ground goes up by a measurable amount.
Sure.
It's not a
Yes.
lot, but
Right.
it's not none.
Yes.
And they makes them so uncomfortable, and I'm like, but that's really funny.
Sure. Hey, the chances of dying during this podcast are not 0.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Actually,
accurate.
The episode, this is a story that no listeners probably know yet, but the episode we did with David Cope, after the episode,
Yeah.
we and David was a former bud tender. He's like a big cannabis advocate, so it was a very pro cannabis episode. And then after the show, we were outside, we were indulging a little bit, and I maybe took more than I should have because I'm kind of a lightweight.
Maybe I was there. Can confirm. There was no maybe.
By a significant amount.
Yeah, definitely happened.
Anyways, I had a big coughing fit, and then I was losing my mind, and then I was like, I should lean up against this wall because I'm starting to feel a little lightheaded. And then before I knew it, I woke up, and my brother was standing over me going, Alex, are you okay? And I had passed out from I think overindulging possibly might be the
The
explanation.
quote was, "How long was I out?"
How long was I out?
So, yeah, you know the toys where you like go like this and you press the bottom and
yeah,
the
and they
strings
just fall
collapse
apart.
and a giraffe
A little.
does like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
that's what happened with his body.
Yeah.
Right in front of all of
He was
us. and it
completely erect.
scary
Then he
as hell.
was made of jello.
So
Instantly.
what I think you're trying to say then is kids don't do drugs.
Yes.
Yeah, kids, correct.
Kids don't.
So yeah, let's all promise to survive this episode.
Yeah, let's
Hands in the middle, we all promise.
All right. I'm going to
Yeah.
do my best to live through
Got
this.
it.
I
Scott,
can't
hands
make
in.
that promise.
Just do your best. That's all we're going to ask you tonight.
I'll
Just
give
do
it a
your best.
college
Yeah.
try.
All right, guys, let's get this show on the road. We have a lot of things we want to talk to you about. So let's start with Fired Up.
Fired up.
Okay.
Oh,
It was different.
It was classic.
That was good.
It was a little
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a
yeah.
combination of a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I'm
good.
going to nominate Ryan to go first.
okay.
What are you fired up about?
So this shed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So I do have for me, a slightly more profound fired up. So my daughter is 7 years old, and up until this moment, she has enjoyed video games very sparingly. She's excited about video games, but she she'll play for 10 minutes, and then obviously a 7-year-old's mind is so distracted that it's puppies and coloring, and I've got
Something shiny.
I've got to get a snack and something else. The other day, she decided that she was upset because there was a very old game that she couldn't find, and so we downloaded a new game, and it happened to be a Pokemon game that was a free game.
I'm listening.
And I have never been into Pokemon. I was a generation before that ended up coming to be, so I don't know much about it.
You're
But
closer to Scott's age.
yes, I'm probably
Nobody's closer to my age.
not too far.
Real quick,
So-
Scott, how do you say Pokemon in Japanese? Or actually, what does Pokemon translate to in English?
Pocket monster.
Oh, you got it.
nice.
Nailed
You
it.
got it. He did.
Nailed it. Let's go.
So we found this game called Pokemon Quest, and it is a rudimentary RPG role-playing game. And I had a feeling that she was going to play for 5 minutes and then go get a snack and go outside, but she has really embraced it, and I'm really excited because I can see her mind racing, and there's a lot of math, and there's reading involved, and there is strategy involved that I didn't think she was going to be interested in, and she is so into it. And I'm so
awesome.
excited because my wife and I are both RPG video game players, Final Fantasy and things like that. She was just playing earlier today before I showed up, and there are these little power stones that you can add to your Pokemon to make them stronger, and there was a stone that she added, and it was like 130 hit points, and I was like, well, there's a 145, you should do that one. And she was like, no, Dada, the 130 has a plus 10 recharge rate
Strategy.
and a -5 attack whatever, and she's like, this one's
Yo.
better. And I was like, holy shit,
Yeah. You better
this is awesome.
Yeah.
check
Yeah.
yourself.
So so
For real.
thank God you can only do 5 little exhibition quests within a certain amount of time, and then it kind of locks you out of the game, so you can't play anymore. Like it's almost timed, right? So you have to wait half an hour before you recharge. So it's a
nice.
way to like not get kids to play for 7 hours at a time, which
Yeah,
is
for
great.
sure.
So she only plays for a little bit, and then she's off to do something else. But like, it's so interesting to see her mind. Like, she'll know how to add the hit points together before she does the stuff, and like it's working. So it's not just a mindless, dumb game that she's going to waste time in. It is,
She's learning stuff.
yeah, it's awesome.
Every day she is more and more your daughter.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. So that's all I'm fired up about. So
Is it on mobile or Switch? Or
it's on the Switch.
Yeah?
We've been playing it on the TV, but we'll end up probably taking it with us if we go on vacation or whatever we do. But
Hell yeah.
it's exciting to see her wheels turning in a different direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all.
Very cool.
So yeah.
Does everyone know the theme song to Pokemon? Like all the lyrics?
Gotta
to it?
catch 'em all. I don't know.
Yeah. Is it?
Pokemon.
That's
Is
beautiful.
Is it?
Yeah, that's
That
good.
was-
That's the right stuff.
I don't know.
I have a cold.
Yeah.
Give me
I
the
don't know.
first line of the song, please. Tell me you know it.
No. I'm older than Ryan. It was just, that was like
No.
kid stuff.
No,
when it
I
came
can't.
out to
Are you
me.
telling me
Yeah.
you never got your ass kicked on the school bus because
Dude,
someone took your Pokemon
I
cards and you
couldn't
tried
even,
to?
other than Charizard, Bulbasaur, and Pikachu, that's all I've got. That's it. And I'm pretty sure I pronounced one of them wrong. That's all I've got.
It was
Yeah.
decent. but
Yeah.
It's cool to be able to make fun of you for not being into Pokemon.
Oh, yeah? Really?
Yeah,
That's
the
where
tables
it's
have
going to
really
go?
turned.
Yeah. Like I am learning this whole Pokemon thing as she's playing the game. So I have no idea,
I got
but
nothing.
yeah.
No, that's
I'm with
awesome.
you. I got nothing.
Jason, what are you fired up about?
I am fired up that all week since Sunday, I've had a pretty terrible head cold.
Can
That I
confirm.
was
Yeah,
like-
can't tell. Yeah.
Super concerned about, like, leading up to this.
Did you do COVID tests?
And yes, I did some COVID tests. All good. It's just a head cold. Well, it isn't COVID. Let me say that.
Okay.
But
It's cancer.
it is
I was
cancer.
just gonna
yeah.
say,
I have
did you do an AIDS test?
face
He's gonna
cancer.
die.
Uh,
The
no,
chances of
no.
him surviving have gone down significantly.
But as of today, it's all kind of cleared up, and it was all leading up to today. I wanted to be here for this, and I'm super excited about the fact that as of today, I'm back to feeling my normal self.
Wow.
But I will tell you, with all the nose blowing and snot and all that's coming out of my head, this morning I woke up and looked in the mirror, and my nostrils looked like Freddy Krueger's butthole. It was awful. I was like frightened by what I saw in the mirror.
Were they just red or?
Thank God this is an audio
Like-
only podcast.
Yeah, they were so like gross and red and crusted and bleeding, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But then lots of lotion, lots of Vicks Vapor Rub, and now you see the lovely
surviving.
pink hue that you're seeing
Yeah.
tonight on my face.
They're
yeah.
no longer prolapsed.
Yeah, they're not prolapse. Yeah.
Prolapse
Yeah.
nostrils.
I had prolapse nostrils this morning. It was disgusting. But yeah, super excited to be like on the healthy side of whatever
Feeling
that
better.
was. And
Yeah.
Other side
The
of
feeling of being able to breathe again through
oh
both
my
nostrils.
God. I have been miserable.
How much do you
Miserable.
realize like that you take breathing for granted? Like
Yes. Until you can't.
it's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately is feelings of gratification that are non-sexual. And I think being able to breathe through both nostrils after like one's been clogged,
Oh,
one
sure.
of the most satisfying, pleasurable, non-sexual feelings you can ever have.
Yeah. That very first one, the one where you're like breathe deep and it's there and
It's
you're
back.
like, oh, yeah.
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 I have lungs.
I had that earlier today. That's how I know I'm on
Can
the-
anybody else chime in a
other side of the hill on
really
this.
good, non-sexual, satisfying feeling?
Yes,
Oh, here we go.
I absolutely can. And I got this initially a little bit from Bradley Williams. We were playing Northwoods Black, and Bradley said he loves that course because on that course, and you know, Bradley's one of the top players in the world.
Sure.
He said, on that course, every time I par a hole, I get a dopamine hit
Mm-hmm.
because every hole has a potential double bogey on it.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about all the different things that make a good golf hole. And by the way, I'm not going to talk about a good recreational golf hole or
Sure.
aesthetically good golf hole, but what is a good golf hole for a touring player? And I figured out what it is. A good golf hole is just like smoking cigarettes as far as a satisfying thing. And here's what I mean by that. If you smoke, you do not feel good from nicotine. Okay, that's bullshit. That's a myth. You feel awful from the depleted dopamine and depleted serotonin, and the nicotine just gets you up to baseline.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Back
If
to
you're
zero.
if you're a non-smoker, a smoker smokes a cigarette just to feel where you are, but it takes that feeling awful in order for the cigarette to make you feel good. And I thought, here's what makes a good golf hole. It's like craving a cigarette. On a good golf hole, you should feel anxiety, which is just cortisol. You should feel a depletion of dopamine or serotonin or even norepinephrine, whatever, because you're nervous and you're scared. You should almost feel bad on the tee pad of a hole, which means you are satisfied with the par.
Oh my God, I love it.
And it actually makes you feel good. But in order to feel good, because if you think about it, I mean, I'm pretty darn good at disc golf. A birdie on a recreational course doesn't really excite me.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't move me. It doesn't make me feel good. You know, it's just, okay, we've got millions of birdies. If I play Northwoods Black and I'm standing on the tee pad, scared to death of this shot, and I get a birdie, I get the dopamine. But it took the fear and anxiety to give it that. So I said, it's just like, it's like being a smoker on the course.
Love that.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
that
great.
is why I have said I want courses that are going to kick my ass.
Yeah.
I want to be nervous the whole time.
Sure.
Yes. I
Hole
love-
one, okay, so also at that Leadstone, I realized this on hole one at the Eureka Lake course,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to throw like 400 feet over the water to have a decent approach shot. You can clear it at 350, but it's like, then you're like, no, you might bogey from there even if you're
Yeah.
safe.
Down the hill.
If
Yeah.
you throw it too hard, you crest the hill and go out of bounds long, but there's a headwind coming off the water, and if you're backhand, you're going to be fading left. And I was having a panic attack the night before the tournament because that's the first hole of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally, like, I was falling asleep having anxiety over that hole. And then I realized I think I birdied it once and parred once or something, but I played it fine. And it was like so much more rewarding because of that anxiety that I felt. That's where I got
Brilliant.
it from. Or that's the moment I
I love it.
realized it.
That's great.
I don't.
That's
have,
so much better than what I was going to say because I thought
I don't.
I
have-
was going to say
go ahead.
it's when you use your bidet and you still do the just in case wipe, and then you look and you realize the bidet got everything and there's nothing on the toilet paper. That is like,
Okay,
I
so
could come
speaking
right
of
there.
bidets, allow me to jump in here. So check this out. We were in Southeast Asia for months. And in Southeast Asia, no toilet paper. Now,
hold
on
on.
the surface, that might seem like a bad thing. So every single bathroom, whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's outside in a park, in your hotel, they're all wet rooms, right? So there's no carpet or anything. It's all like concrete or something.
Mm-hmm.
No toilet paper. You have a garden hose with a power nozzle. All right. That might on this.
No. This
Yeah,
is
it
a,
might
this
on
is
the-
a look of intrigue.
It might on the surface.
that sounds weird on the whole.
It is. It is. Oh,
Got
really?
him. Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Strap
No,
in.
it is.
Yeah.
take it.
It is unusual. Except it's not that unusual. If several billion people use bathrooms that way, it's not weird.
Yeah.
It's just as normal as a Western toilet, statistically.
Yeah.
So it's a power nozzle, but here's the thing: that power nozzle will completely soak you. It'll soak your shoes, it soaks your pants, it soaks your shirt, it soaks your hair. Like it gets everywhere.
Were you about to say it soaks your hair?
Well, it did no. It's just because it's a power nozzle.
You reached up like it soaks your hair. I was like,
Yeah.
there's a story here.
No, every part of you gets drenched. Go into a small room and play with a hose with a power nozzle.
Yeah.
You're getting wet, right? Which would be a problem, except in Southeast Asia, it's going to rain like 6 times a day. So when you walk out dry, it rains on you 45 minutes later for 30 seconds, and your clothing's wet 5 times a day. So
See where this is going.
there's nothing unusual about like using a power nozzle and drenching yourself in the middle of the day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
one of the a very unique thing about.
I think I'm just
Southeast
going to
Asia.
skip the bidet altogether and just get the attachment for the garden
Yeah,
hose
the
and the
hose.
sink. Yeah,
They've got it figured out. For
yeah,
sure.
might
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
We'll need
The
to
hell
check
am I
in with
doing?
Cy Spencer. He's our
yeah. He's in Singapore,
representative
right?
in Singapore.
do
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
anyway.
Exactly.
uh-huh.
in a place like Singapore, they'll have like Western toilets. Like if you stay at like a fancy Western hotel, like they're gonna have toilet paper. But in Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand,
Hose.
I'm going to keep us moving
garden hose.
on the subject because
Allow me to go into more detail. No, I'm just kidding.
There's hose in all them area codes, is what you're saying.
Hey,
Go on.
your comment about the non-sexual feeling. It was the perfect segue for my fired up. I am approaching 2 months with no cigarettes.
Yes,
Not a single drag.
That's amazing.
No drags. And whenever I go to a disc golf event, that's one of there's like a few like trigger like,
Yeah, for sure.
and when I see like my friends who I always have a cigarette with, and like when we're playing together, I'm like, ooh, and I showed up to leagues on
They
last
look
week or
like
whatever,
a cigarette, don't
and
they?
I was like,
Yeah.
Marbs is gonna be there,
Yep.
and I always have a cigarette with Marbs, and then we ended up on the same card, and I was like,
no.
ooh, the whole round he's smoking, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Can I give you a hot tip on this one?
Yes.
All right, this is the most important tip you're ever going to get. This is literally like save your life tip.
That's what I've
The
said before.
single most important thing you have to know is don't ever take a puff or have a cigarette. Because if you have a cigarette, I'm out drinking with the guys, what's one cigarette going to hurt? The reality is you will only have one cigarette that night. Great. Now you realize, hey, every once in a while, I can have one cigarette.
It's the slope.
It's a slope. It's a 100% chance because once you've told yourself you can have one, there's a 100% chance you become a smoker again. You have to not take a single puff ever.
I'm not actually committed to quitting forever. I
do love it.
Unless you want to start smoking
Yeah.
again, then
Yeah.
smoke one.
We'll see. We'll see how I feel. My goal is to get for my wife and I to get pregnant, and quitting smoking.
At least one of you.
will help
Yeah.
with that. And I told her I will not smoke another cigarette until we're pregnant. And then I have a feeling that once we're pregnant, I'll be like, I can't start smoking again. We're gonna have a kid, but
Yeah.
I will ease up on myself. Also, at that point, I'll be like, I made the kid. I will have that cigarette if we're out, with the boys drinking, whatever. We'll see. I don't know. At the moment, I'm enjoying my progress.
It's hard for me personally to tell you to stop
'Cause you
smoking
want-
because one of the things that we share together
Yes,
is
I know.
sharing cigarettes. So
When I see you, I'm like,
I
I
know.
wish I had a cigarette for you.
I
You guys
know,
do me
I
a
know,
favor?
I
Yeah.
Because I won't be around. Will you please write the "I told you so" note and just sign my name?
Oh yeah,
Sure,
absolutely.
sure,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yes, yes,
On
yes,
it.
yes.
All right,
Sweet.
who's left? Sean, you're fired
I
up
will
about
go.
something.
Yes. So as everybody knows, we did have the delis this past Friday.
I was going to use that, but I knew I would save it
yes,
for
yes,
you.
yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Take them delis.
I'm gonna precursor this with going into the delis. It's been a long year. Everybody's feeling it. It's been, I don't want to say a struggle, but we're getting through the tail end of the year, and the deli signups were lower than the last couple of years, and we were not mad at anybody, but a little bit disappointed, and it is what it is. So we kind of fully went into this thinking that maybe this might be the last year of the delis.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe. Nothing guaranteed. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to explain to Scott. The
Yes.
Delis is our end of year awards show.
I know.
Okay.
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
Everybody knows about the delis.
well, now we have to do it.
Well, Jesus.
No.
But
So
I just want to let you know
Yes.
it's at the Roxy downtown. Disc golf is not a part of this. Like everybody dresses up, everybody gets food. It's a big awards thing. It's a giant
Yes.
party.
I really think
And-
of it like the MTV Video Music Awards.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. So the fact that there is not disc golf to play is really what makes us think that not everybody's going to sign up, because I can't go and smoke and drink and play disc golf and
play
maybe
disc golf.
win $10 on my buddies that night.
Right.
I'm going to go play Glow instead.
Yes.
Is what we always assume is the case when nobody signs up. But go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yes. Cut to Friday night, the delis. Went off without a hitch. Absolutely phenomenal night.
Mhm.
I would say collectively our favorite part of the night is when we give the actual deli awards. And giving those deli awards to shout out to Steve Brown, Jason Allen,
Partner.
Big Wiz, and also Gary Lewis, legend of the area. It was, and I hate having to constantly go back and say, "Oh, now I'm rejuvenated," instead of already feeling rejuvenated before we go into it. But damn it, I tell you, seeing those guys up on stage, giving those speeches on receiving those awards was like a punch in my face of this is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
And
How
it
dare
was-
you for a second
how
not think that
dare
this is
I?
cool?
How dare I think for 1 second that this isn't worth this whole night and every moment and every person that hasn't volunteered yet and every person that hasn't done all these things. So I am here to say tonight that absolutely, without a doubt, there will always be delis. Forever, as long as I have anything to do with it.
You'll do it in
because
purple
it
purity.
was just
What is
absolutely
that word?
Yeah,
I'll never get it right.
Perpetuity.
There.
I got
Yeah.
to tell you something about the delis.
Tell me.
Liz found out that I was going. She was like, "Oh, what are you doing on Friday?" I was like, "Oh, it's the delis." And she's like, "Whoa. We're not going to the delis?" And I was like, I assumed you didn't want to go. And she's like, "What do you mean? I had such a good time. Like, can I still go?" And I was like, "Shut the fuck up." I went on. I bought our ticket right away, and we had a great time. Like, that was our favorite date of the year.
Yep,
Yeah.
I love that.
Such a good time.
The speeches from the Deli Award winners were just absolutely outstanding. It was the moment that we dreamed this up to be. Like,
Yeah.
I want it to be the chills when you have that moment of a movie or a song or and it absolutely was. So, what an amazing night! I'm still living on the high of the delis and starting to plan for next year and the whole season and the whole gig.
Beautiful.
Stoked on it.
I'm very happy to hear this. I was nervous that you might.
It was a magical night. Magical night.
Yeah.
And if you didn't come, you've screwed up. It's such a good, unique experience.
Yes.
To reiterate, for $40, you got to go to the Roxy and hang out with all your friends, all your buddies. You got an ice sculpture.
Bang.
You got appetizers and dinner, including shrimp and quesadillas,
Unlimited shrimp.
That shrimp
wings and pulled pork and charcuterie and like the whole deal, right?
Ping,
Drink
ping,
tickets.
ping.
2 free drinks,
Bow.
a magic show,
Bada-ba-dow.
a magic show
Bada-ba-dow.
where Sheila disappeared
Yeah.
and
Yes, she did.
reappeared as Twan, dressed up as Sheila.
Yeah.
A whole thing was planned.
Still.
That's worth $40
Been thinking
alone.
about that for a
my.
week. Cannot figure out how they
And
did
then
it.
all of the end of season awards, which everyone works towards, and then the Deli Awards, of which 3 of the 4 members came from the same table,
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
which was great. For $40, I don't understand. It defies all.
Yeah.
It should be sold out in minutes, like every tournament we.
Those who
But
know,
if we-
those who know.
And that was really one of the things that hit it home was like seeing
Yeah.
and I will say also like knowing what the signups were year 1, year 2, year 3, and there was a difference when you are up on that stage, when we are in that vibe that we cannot explain unless you are there, it feels like a sea of people because everybody's energy in that space is so excited to be.
Agreed. Yeah.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I do trivia nights where like only 6 teams show up, I get that same way because I'm like, what am I doing this for? And then I realize, I'm doing it for the 6 teams that showed up tonight.
Yes.
And I'm like, they're going to get the same Jason if there was 26 teams tonight.
Yes.
And I totally get that perspective.
Amen.
Yeah.
I get that way about this show. When I post, hey, send us your audio mailbag submissions, and no one does it.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we doing this show?
You're screaming into the void.
Oh, it's for Joey 3 Putts.
Yeah.
That's who we do the show.
Only for him.
Yeah.
If only for him.
All right, let's keep it moving.
Yep.
Scott, what are you fired up about?
I've been thinking about this a long time
Because
How
you
long?
listen to the
How long?
so
Since
many
the last
episodes,
time
yeah.
you hit the head.
No, it's
Yeah,
the
couple
last
minutes ago.
45 to 50 episodes.
Yeah, right.
And I've always
Right,
wanted
right.
the opportunity of
Yeah.
like
or
what-
45 to 50 minutes.
No,
but go
like
ahead.
what in my life? Because there's so many different aspects to my life, and what is the thing that fires me up the most when I look at the whole thing in its entirety? And I think it's the fact that I quit smoking when I was 30, and every night when I go to bed, I'm like, I'm such a genius. I don't have one cigarette. I have a kid now.
That was a
Captions,
little-
captions for listeners.
That was a little Jolene-y, man.
That was.
I didn't even know that
He
joke,
leaned
right?
away from the mic and stared
Yeah.
deeply into my eyes.
I was just flirting with you.
Got him.
No, I'm not that guy. Do whatever the hell you want. I'm like, no, I think that what I'm fired up about is that I'm living the life that I want to live after a lifetime of working really hard and move it up, doing really well at other parts. But I'm like, I got everything. I'm like, I'm doing things exactly the way I want to. So I'm fired up every day because I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing this thing. You know, I've had a great life, but it's had ups and downs, and there's no more downs. It's exactly how I planned it. Took a long time. I also figured out the secret to happiness, which took a long time too. Like, it'd be a handy thing to know when you're 20.
So tell us.
You want to know the
Please,
secret to happiness?
100%.
Please.
We have listeners in their
Yeah.
20s.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
behind
tell
it.
you.
We
the
talk,
secret-
by the way,
yes.
we talk a lot on the show about mental health, and I think that's one of the things that our listeners really, really gravitate to. So the secret to happiness, please
Watch, it's going to be like nachos.
God, I hope it
You ain't
is.
wrong.
That's
You
so
ain't wrong on
easy.
that one.
No, it's just about not smoking. No.
By the way, the hacking you hear and the wheezing is my lungs repairing themselves. I've had a cough for weeks. now.
Yeah.
No, so I'll give you the quick version of this because it really took me a long time to figure this out. But basically, I think what you have to do is you have to throw away every single thing you've ever been told or everything you think you know about what you want in life. Because throughout your entire life, you got your parents, you got your siblings, you got your friends, television, music, the church, society, Fox News, and CNN. Don't pick sides, whatever. Like you have all these different people telling you what life is supposed to be, and you have to just throw all of it away and start from scratch. And then you have to figure out every aspect of life what you want, independent of what anybody else says you should do. What do I want my relationship to look like? What do I want my career to look like? What do I want everything to look like? And it may turn out that it's exactly what you're doing now. Like there's nothing wrong with getting married to one person in a monogamous relationship, having 2 kids and growing old with them. There's nothing wrong with that if you decide that's for you. But if you step back, you might go, is that really for me? And you may conclude that's not for you. And then you go, oh, well, I can go choose a path that fits what I want. And I'm not saying any of this is easy. It took a long time to figure out, but just to basically shut out all the voices and not let anybody influence you on how you want to live your life and then do it your way. Not easy, but I can tell you that when you do that, you're like, oh man, this is kind of neat.
Well, I think a big part of that is knowing
Goddamn.
yourself and listening to yourself, because this is something like I just said, we talk a lot about mental health on the show, and I'll get real for a second. In therapy, one of the things I'm really working on is knowing why I do what I do and figuring out if it's serving what I actually want. And I've, for many, many years, not listened to myself. I just do things sort of automatically or do things for the wrong reasons sometimes, and not being in touch with your actual voice and your actual conscience. And if you don't listen to yourself and you don't know what you want, it almost doesn't matter if you're going to block out everything else, because you need to know you first. You really got to listen to that. You got to find it. And so what I'm working on is like, why did I do that? Why did I agree to do that thing?
Yeah.
Like, is it serving me or not? Like,
Why did I agree to do trophies for that tournament again? Why did I do that?
Is that serving me?
Damn. Never.
not.
It's never serving me.
yeah, that's,
Well, there's
It's a big thing.
another part to the thing about figuring out life is that when you figure out what you want, it doesn't mean it can happen tomorrow. So what I've found is, as long as that you have a plan to get to where you want, then I think you can be happy. So, for example, you have a good career as an accountant. Not what you wanted to do. You wanted to play guitar, right, in a band. But you have a job as an accountant. But you have 2 kids. You got a mortgage. Well, guess what? Suck it up. You're going to have to do the stuff you have to do because that is a priority. But it doesn't mean that you can't plan on, hey, once these kids get off to college, I'm going to try to play music for a living, because knowing that is in the future, it's like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, that accounting job that was making you miserable, I don't think it makes you as miserable if you know there's an end in sight.
100%.
So it's not a matter of things happening today. They can't happen. And by the way, some of these things might involve going back to college. Some of these things might involve,
Becoming an accountant with 2 kids.
Yeah.
What
It might
do you
be.
want
Well,
then?
it could mean like facing the prospect of a divorce because you realize you're not happy. But if you can get through it if you know that it can be better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you stick with this thing that makes you unhappy, then not to be all like on my soapbox or anything.
You got
but
the
that's-
chips.
That's what I figured out.
You got the ground beef.
Got the ground beef.
Eventually, you'll get the cheese.
Yeah, and make
And the
those
olives
goddamn
and the salsa,
nachos.
and eventually it will be nachos.
Pick with the gallo.
Yeah. Put some sour cream on that shit.
Yeah.
All right. That's a wrap on everybody's fired up.
Cope, do you want to switch seats? Because all the stupid shit I planned on saying tonight is not going to be worthy of this episode. So if you want to be on and I'll just get out of here, that's fine.
Oh, I don't have the hard drive for that.
yeah, for that. All right. All right.
All right. So where we go from here is into the Callahan rundown. And Sean said we are not doing the Callahan rundown, but I still wanted to let everybody know that the Callahan rundown is usually brought to you unofficially by
DiscGolfScene.com.
Oh, come on, Pete.
There
Yeah.
you go. He gets it.
Yeah.
He really does listen.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you nailed it.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yep. You did exactly what we've
Should we
done for
explain
50
that?
episodes.
Yes, definitely. Do that.
Please do the honors. Why do we say come on, Pete?
I think it started because it was like all the things that we wanted to be on Disc Golf Scene, or all of the little, as we were learning how Disc Golf Scene worked, we were hoping that Pete is listening. Pete, whose last name I am totally
Christ.
Pete Christ. We were always hoping.
You just made a new word,
That he
bro.
was hoping that he was listening, and it was like, come on, Pete, come on and do these things. And now it's just this thing where we've reached out to Pete, and he knows that we say discgolfscene.com. Come on, Pete.
Yeah.
And now it's fun, and now everybody knows it. And you did it, and now it's even cooler.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now
Yes.
from this
But
day
you've
on,
known that the last
I'm
50
going to call
episodes. Yes.
David Cope,
I do.
Sir David Copening.
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 The Copening.
The Copening.
The Copening.
Yeah.
All right, since there is no real Callahan rundown, and since we don't have any real sponsors to talk about at this time, by the way, we could have sponsors. We're just
Good.
We
We're just
will
being
have
lazy
another
about it.
one because I talked to Redemption Disposal and Recycling, and they we're going to work out a deal, I think, again.
Okay.
So
Okay.
unofficially, we will have a sponsor.
For the record, AO the Mortgage Pro is wondering why we didn't ask him to do it again, and there wasn't a good reason. We just, I don't know, dropped the ball. But he is adamant that he has gotten numerous deals from being the sponsor of the show. He can trace back numerous deals from people who said, I hear you on Unstable Discourse, and I just figured I'd work with you.
I do hundreds of deals. The deals come out of my ears, and they're good deals. Most of them are phenomenal deals.
So future sponsors, just know it works. All right, people listen.
And current listeners, stay tuned to see if we had an ad spot right now.
I always use Chico's bail bonds because they sponsored this show.
All right, we're going to take a break.
Does
We'll be
anybody
right
get the reference, by the way? Anybody?
somewhere in the back of my mind.
Anybody? Come on.
No.
Chico's Bail Bonds is from
The greatest sports movie ever made. Bad News Bears.
I knew it was familiar.
I
Damn it.
dated myself.
Yeah.
I told you I'm got 10 years on y'all.
All right, we'll be right back. And we're back. Ryan literally just slapped my
I
hand.
just
for
had to
touching the
slap
microphone.
his hand off of the microphone.
Stop
In
touching.
you
your,
explain
in your
the-
defense, it was on your leg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Explain the problem. Why, when I touch the microphone, why is it a problem?
because it makes noise and I can't hear what you said because it goes,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
because it's still funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time he yells
Oh,
at you.
okay.
60 episodes.
Yeah.
Still hysterical.
I'm never going to stop. I very consciously have tried to stop. It's never going to happen.
No.
Anyways, it's time to get into the nuts and bolts of this episode. Have we thrown around a name for this one yet? I think sometimes we just do the episode and the name comes
And
to
the
us
name
later.
comes to
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
It isn't there yet,
Uh-huh.
but it will.
It'll reveal itself.
Yes.
It'll reveal itself.
Just let it happen, baby.
Yep.
Anyways, it's time to get to know Scott Stokely. I have a list of questions. I know you've got a list of questions.
Have questions here, yes.
Do you have one that you feel like is really good to start us off on a good path?
I don't.
Okay.
I do.
Please.
So, have you ever woken up
Oh my God.
and looked at yourself in the mirror and one of your eyebrow hairs is like suddenly 3 inches long?
How?
And it
How?
wasn't like that the day before?
Right? It's like all the hairs decided, hey, it's you, buddy.
It's this
Like,
time.
yeah.
What is your take on that, and why do you think that happens while we sleep?
So a bunch of things happen where you cross these imaginary lines when you get older. I heard, and I'm going to steal this from somebody, but I heard that you get to a point where your body's not able to keep your heart beating and your ball hair dark.
At the same time.
So
right,
it makes
okay.
the choice
Right.
and it keeps you alive.
Right.
There's this
I appreciate that decision.
Yeah, for sure.
there's this imaginary line, and I crossed this line here. I crossed the line where bowling becomes exercise.
Yeah.
And
so real.
there's an imaginary line where all of a sudden you get ear hair
Mhm.
and eyebrow hair that's like anarchy.
It is.
But it's not the day before. It did not happen yesterday. And then the next day it happens for the rest of your life. So yeah, of course, I'm like elderly. I'm closer to 107 years old than I am to my birth.
I know how old he is.
Oh, wow.
That's math.
Okay.
Yo.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning. Now let's go back to instead of age 107, let's go back to early days. I think a cool place for this conversation to start. And there's a running joke on the show where I ask a really bad interview question where I ask, "How did you get started playing disc golf?" And I'm not going to do that because Ryan has a little
Thank you.
he has like a period every time I ask that question.
I bleed just a little bit.
So,
Just a,
Well, he's
some
not
spotting.
trying to have a baby
Where-
either.
just
so
some
he can
spotting.
start that.
Where I'm
He
gonna
can
start
carries
is-
as he
Yeah.
wants.
and I was just telling you this during the break is I started reading Growing Up Disc Golf. That's your autobiography, and it's genuinely compelling. And the reason I'm so excited to get this time with you today is not because you're this very accomplished disc golfer, though that is really cool to me. The thing is, I think you're a very interesting human being. You have such a story that goes back to being a kid. You grew up differently than a lot of people grow up, right? Like I'm just gonna say some things. All right, you were adopted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your dad gone at 7, passed away, correct?
Yes.
And then you found disc golf when you were like a young adolescent, 11, 12-ish.
Well, I played my first round of Frisbee golf. When I played my first round of Frisbee golf, I played it on the only Frisbee golf course in the world.
right.
That was in 1976, but I didn't play frequently. The course was about 7 miles away. And when you're like 7, 8, 9 years old, that's the other end of the earth.
Yeah.
But my mom, it was within range where I'd go to the park once in a while when my mom took me. But when I was 11, I moved right down the street from the park.
Okay.
And basically, where did you start playing disc golf? That actually, I think this might have been a decent question this time because I think
That's the thing is, it is a good question with you. It's not. It's not with everybody else.
yeah. So
Go
the
read
short,
his
the
book.
short of it is that I grew up in a very blue collar neighborhood, blue collar people. My family was never anything but that, and I moved to a very rich, straight out of a John Hughes movie, a town of Locking Out of Flint Ridge. I have no idea what the town's like now, so no hate mail. But when I was younger, it was freaking awful. It was kids would get Porsches for their 16th birthday, and like it was that type of.
Wow.
It was a John Hughes movie.
They were the bad guys in the John Hughes movies, basically.
yes, and I don't recall
During the time of when John Hughes movies would have been.
Well, that's why he made them because there
Yes.
was that social thing. It doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not really a thing anymore. Not really, but back then it was. And so I didn't fit in. I didn't make friends. But right across the street, which basically was the other side of the tracks, there were no tracks. But that other side of that street was Oak Grove Park, which was hippies and people who were out of work and a few people with careers that liked playing Frisbee golf. But it was the exact opposite. But it was my world, and so that's where I started playing. And I was adopted by the Oak Grove Gophers Frisbee Golf Club.
First disc golf club in the country.
Yes. It wasn't the first Frisbee club, but it was the first Frisbee golf course club to my knowledge. I always, there's this West Coast bias where there could have been something in Rochester or Huntsville that happened before then, but I think it was. But basically when I look
And
back.
one second. If Frisbee golf wasn't even a sport quite like it just became a sport within the last few years that you started playing, right? Like,
Yeah, the first course went in 75 and 76 at Oak Grove Park in Pasadena.
and what were the baskets like?
Well, originally they were poles, and then the first baskets were handmade baskets. They were the similar construction as today's baskets, except that there was 10 single sets of chains, which meant that if you threw an AVR or a golf disc, it's like probably 60% chance of cutting through or bouncing out. There was nothing to stop it. But we were playing with lightweight frisbees back then, or golf weight Whammo frisbees, which are just store frisbees but heavier. Just had an additive that made them heavier. No, but in hindsight, I feel like I probably was looking for a father figure. Didn't really realize it at the time, but all the men of the Oak Grove Gophers frisbee golf team adopted me, so they kind of became my dads in every real sense. This is back at a time where that was considered okay to have a male role model and mentor as a young boy, and there was nothing weird about it.
Right.
What were if you can think of, what were some of the alternatives to the direction that you had gone, or were there none?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't fit in the town I was with. I was miserable, so I wasn't going to go in a good direction. I mean, I struggled anyways. Even with these mentors, these wonderful people that were looking out for me. I bowled, I played baseball, but I hated where I lived. Like, I was miserable. I didn't have friends. I didn't want to be friends with anybody. Like, I'm sure there were good kids there. Of course, it's not everybody, but it felt like every single person was rich and I wasn't. And by the way, like, we were comfortably like upper middle class. Like, so like in hindsight,
it's a perspective, right?
But my perspective as a child, I knew nothing but this world in my bubble. Within my bubble, I was the poor kid. As odd as that sounds, because we were far from poor. I mean, my mom probably made more money than almost every single person at Oak Grove. Like, I was like the rich kid to them probably, but they never treated me that way.
I brought it up. I brought up your origins because I think that it's existed throughout the course of disc golf history, is the mentorship that happens, and the guys getting together at a course and having sort of like people to look up to, and I guess the mentorship. Like, we heard Jesse Sains talking about that on the episode. It's like for a lot of the young kids who come out, like a lot of these young guys that get into disc golf, they have emotional struggles, they have mental health struggles, they have like guidance and leadership things that are sort of lacking in their lives, and they find that when they get into disc golf. And I felt like your story it just articulated it so well.
Well, when I like from age like say 16 to 18 or 19, I started doing pretty badly as a kid, drugs, getting into trouble. And when I came back I didn't like fully leave, but when I kind of straightened things out when I was like 19ish, I really wanted the respect of these people. Like, that really mattered to me. And I really didn't give a two shits about what anybody else in the world thought. But what these people thought of me mattered dearly. And so I wanted to make them proud of me. And to this day, if you hear me being interviewed, I'll talk about the old timers in the game from the 70s and 80s with reverence. I still want them to respect me. I still pay homage to them all the time, because I hope they hear that I'm still trying to keep their memory alive, so they're still the most important people to me.
I don't think I realized, I'm not at the shop as much as you are, obviously, Sean, but I am seeing a bit of that mentorship as like, I'm there maybe once a week or once every couple weeks, but Sean's there every day. But I see the younger kids coming in, and I see them watching the older crowd. I see them emulating hopefully what we are doing, and not what some of the bullshit older crowd is doing, because obviously there's some give and take in that. But to hear that and to see where you've gone, and to have you understand where you came from and realize that that's what you saw, gives me hope, because it's tough for me to see that in the moment. But I am starting to notice some of the younger guys, the way they act and who they talk to and the way they respond to some of the not so great aspects of what we see at disc golf tournaments, is really giving me hope. And it's great to hear that you realized that. Even now, I don't know if you realized it back then, but in hindsight.
I did, because the people that I looked up to didn't respect the type of person I was. But they were kind to me and they loved me. I was part of their family. I'm part of the Frisbee family. Like, we all loved each other.
That's the thing.
But I know they didn't like me. And
Why do you say that?
I wanted them to like me because I was an asshole. I was a stupid punk idiot kid. Okay, this is true story. Which, by the way, some of these stories, when I look back, I mean, I do find the humor in those. But if you can imagine being in the moment, what this was like, oh my God, this is awful.
Like in the moment, there was no laugh track.
Well, no.
When you tell the story
there
now,
was to me.
it's different.
Yeah, in his head there was.
Okay. So when I won my first like really big tournament, the 1987 Wintertime Open, it's listed at the PDGA whatever as a C tier. Like that's stupid. There was like only one tournament in the sport that had a larger first place prize. Like people from all over the country came to this tournament. It was a who's who of disc golfers. And when I was 17 years old, I won it. And I was such an asshole that before the final 9, and the way it used to work back then is you would play the tournament and then the top 3 or top 4 people would play a final 9 holes just for them. And then you had a gallery of the other players. No one came out to actually watch the players.
Can I cut you off and ask 2 quick questions just
Yes.
for the listeners that don't understand how tournaments used to look back in the day? What division were you playing, and what was the?
It was Pro Open. I mean, there was only one
There were
division.
only a few. That is my point. Is that maybe people that are listening now that don't understand that?
Yeah, there was a men's division, there was a pro division, and a women's division, and eventually they started opening up like 40 and older, 50 and older, but it was pro.
Yeah.
You signed up, you were a pro. That's why it's the Professional Disc Golf Association. You were a professional because you paid your $10 and got a card that said you're a pro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everybody played for money, whether you won money or not. No, it was terrible. I mean, it was great for the 3 people who were good, and but everyone else was just donating.
It sounds like leagues today.
Yeah. But without divisions, it was like on steroids, right? Like you know, the best thing that happened when we broke in divisions, more divisions, age protected. It's great. Yeah. So I was playing against the best. I was playing. There were 5, 6 world champions that I was playing against.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 17 years old. And before the final 9, I got a white T-shirt, and on the back of it, with a big Sharpie and big letters, I just wrote "Thought I wouldn't" with a question mark.
Ooh.
On the back of my shirt. And then when I played the final 9, every time I made a good shot, everybody would clap, and I would just turn my back to the crowd and point at my back and walk away from them.
Wow.
Yes.
You are the villain in the movie.
Yes.
But you were 17.
No, and it's a
Right.
different time back then, right? I mean, there was like a skateboarding type of culture. And like, I'm not saying it was the same thing, but give me a break. No one likes that guy.
We talk about that a lot, that disc golf culture is evolving in a very similar way to skateboarding culture. And I think Sean's the right person to talk about that. You bring it up all the time.
I do.
And
I love to hear that validation from you as well.
But it's not like that now. I mean, like, it's not even close to that. Look, if you were planning on asking me, because I get this question probably 50% of the podcasts I do, I'll answer it in advance, because the question I get is, okay, you were on the Disc Golf Pro Tour for a year. Give us the juicy gossip. Or some version of, okay, well, we won't record it, but once the mics are off, tell us the juicy gossip on the tour. Tell us all the stories. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to let you in on something. You're about to be very disappointed. Everybody on tour is basically nice, and kind of everybody likes each other, and the people that don't like each other get along.
Would you say there's a sense of we're in this together?
I don't know about that. It's a very surreal thing, because there's now real money. There's real money. There's people's livelihoods. When you're playing for money, that changes people.
Right.
And you're playing for more money than it's at a league night, that people argue over league nights, and everyone kind of roots for each other. All the kids on tour are good kids. And that's the God's honest truth. I like every single player I competed with. There's not one person I'm like, I don't like that person. There's a few people maybe, we have different personalities. I don't see us going out to lunch together, but I don't dislike them. They're respectful to me. I'm kind to them. There's no animosity. So it's everyone's cool. And that is a little different than like, you know, some of the skating, surfing, other alternative sports cultures. Certainly different than major sports, right? Like I'm sorry, like everybody's like just kind of pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would almost say from a marketing perspective, that's a detriment.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because of all of the
I'll
social
choose
media.
that. But I choose that detriment over the alternative, right? I mean, like I don't want to be MMA. I don't want to trash talk. And
You know who understands that really well, I think, is Brody. And he does play a little bit of the...
Oh, he's an antagonist.
Yeah,
A
he
bit,
knows, because he's a great marketer. We talked about this not long ago. He
markets
knows
himself.
how to get...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing about Brody is like he's got a very strong personality, but everybody likes Brody, and the people and the people that maybe don't like him because maybe he's got a strong personality, they don't hate him or dislike him. It's kind of like, that's not maybe he's not my cup of tea, but nobody's like, oh, he's a bad guy.
All I wanted to say is
We-
that
we get-
when
everyone
you brought
kinda
up the
likes each
marketing,
other.
the benefit of the marketing of if there were sort of clashing personalities, and I think Brody understands that really well, and he walks the line, I think, in a very smart way.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of Brody. When you finish your round, there's an autograph booth. And I watched this happen in Waco because I actually played a really good first round at Waco, like a 1043 rated round, first round. Brody had a good first round. So we were on like the third card or something like that. And by the third card, there's an autograph line at the autograph booth. And the idea is you finish your round, you sit down at the booth, you sign, and then at the very least, you stick around until the next card takes your spots and you move on. That's the minimum you should do. It's not mandatory because there are people that kind of, they kind of pout a little bit and they kind of a little upset. And again, they're not bad kids. It's just that they're just not maybe handling the bad round as professionally as they could. But they're not rude. They kind of just go off to be alone, right? But anyways, I don't think you should do that. I think that these are the fans. These are the people that come out. So I played around with Brody, and if you know hole 18 at Waco, it's a nightmare. And it's so windy on that hole, and I couldn't remember, but if I get this wrong, but I think he got a double bogey on his final hole and went from a kind of decent round to a mediocre.
I remember.
round.
Yeah, he really gave it a.
Yeah, he
rip,
did.
Yeah.
And I just watched him walk over to the booth and put this big smile on his face and just smiled and took pictures and was saying hi to all the kids and kneeling down to get a picture and what's your name? How you doing? And they're like exactly what you're supposed to do. And I know for a fact inside his head, he was like pissed at himself, probably disappointed, but he was professional.
Yeah. We saw the same thing here. He came to Clash, one of our big tournaments. We met him while he was practicing with Ezra, and he was off in his own world. We chatted for a few minutes. He was obviously focused on what he was doing. We left him alone. But the moment he was done, he was at the edge of the player area where the fans could meet the players, and he sat there and signed autographs and talked with kids for far longer than he could have. It was exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's what I mean. It's professional. So it's like, okay, so he's, like I said, every single I'm not talking about Brody. Any person with a strong personality isn't going to be liked by everybody. That's what having a strong personality is, right? You're not on the fence, but he's professional and he's kind and honest and fair. And like, I don't know. I mean, I personally like him.
I think we're all fans. I had no intention of talking about Brody before this interview. It just, once you brought up marketing, I wanted to, I don't know. It just came out.
So here's the thing too, is that if you're a young player on tour, you go grab Brody and ask him how he's making money. Like, what are you doing? Like any player on tour that's not named Paul, Ricky, or Simon that isn't asking Brody what he does is wrong. Because he's better at that part of the job than you. You can learn something from him. By the way, I'm also in this group. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
When I was out on tour, I'm going to ask you I'm going to lean over to ask Adriana, like, how many people did I take out to lunch or to dinner? Probably like once a week. I would grab a young player, take him out to dinner, somebody who I thought was screwing up their marketing. And I'm like, you just weren't doing a good job. And I just took him out to dinner. I said, hey, I'll buy you dinner. And then I just lectured him for like an hour. But I was mentoring them. I'm trying to just help them do the things because they're 20. Like, I didn't know anything when I was 20. How can you expect them to know anything about business when you're 20?
Sure.
Of course not. Yeah. Someone has to teach them. But if someone's not taking you out to dinner, go up to Brody and say, I'll buy you dinner if I can talk to you about marketing for half an hour. I bet he says yes. If you're a player on tour.
I've got about 1,000 other questions. You were quoted on one of the podcasts that I never heard of the show before, but it seems good. Life, Passion, and Business podcast. You said, I didn't want to work for someone else who will ultimately have control over my life. So I dropped out of college and I hit the road.
Correct.
What were you doing at that time? And that sort of like sparked that quote.
Sure, absolutely.
And now, and the reason I wrote it down is because I looked you up on LinkedIn. I saw you were in software sales. I saw you were like, you ended up having a corporate job at some point. So I wanted to understand.
Crank call.
I wanted to understand where
that was my first real job. I made it to age like 48 before having my first real job. No, okay, I'll tell you exactly where it came from. So I was told, we were talking, this is exactly what I said earlier when I said, everybody else wants to tell you how you're supposed to live your life. Well, I was, and I think it does still happen today, I was told you need to go to college. In fact, if you don't go to college, you're a loser. It's basically what I was told when I was in school.
We think that sentiment is fading a little bit, but it's still pretty prevalent.
Yeah, it's and if you're listening and you're a young person, that is the stupidest thing. Like, I ain't calling the person that said it to you stupid because it might be mom or dad, but that information is bullshit. All right. So that plumber with the 3 employees, they make far more money than the teacher that told you that you need to go to college. They got a college degree, and when the poop doesn't go down,
or the
they
person
call
who
the
got
plumber.
the teacher.
They're not calling the teacher.
or the person who got a marketing degree and is who's just got like a really ho hum marketing job and probably doesn't love it.
It's so dumb. College isn't dumb. College is perfect for like that 23% of people that want those 23% of jobs, but it's not the only path. I was told it was. So when I was going to get my life together at age 20 years old, I went to college for 3 semesters. I did really well. And sometime during the 3rd semester, I was working at Kinko's because I was working full time, and I worked the full time graveyard shift. I went to school in the day, which is really hard, but I managed to
Worked
do it.
all night and went to school all day.
Not all day. I mean, I part-time classes, but I worked the full-time night job.
Still, yeah.
And so I was working at Kinko's, and I had built up some time off. And I forget, every 2 months you've earned a day off or whatever, but you earn that day
Worked
off.
2 months to get a day off.
No, every 2 months, because you get like 5 vacation days a year, 5 to 6 or 5.5, whatever, based on hours worked, right? So that's actually
Real.
That's your week's vacation, but they give it to you like in a day at a time.
Sure.
But anyways, the point is, I earned this day off with working. And so I told my boss like a couple months or something in advance, I need this Friday off because I'm going to a disc golf tournament. And he just flipped his shit. He's like, oh my God, we can't replace people on the graveyard shift. How am I going to find anybody to do this? And I'm going to get, and it's like, give me the, and I'm like, wait a second. I earned this day off, and I'm like literally battling with this guy. He seemed like a grown up at the time. He was probably 25, but at the time, but I was 20 or 21, right? So he seemed like a grown up to me. And I'm like arguing with this guy, and I'm like, the whole time I remember thinking, but I don't care about Kinko's. I care about the disc golf tournament I want to go to. This is insane. And so I battled with him, and finally was like, fine, you can have the day off. I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, the position you're putting us in. And it's like, I got the day off. But at some point, very quickly after that, I thought to myself, if I finish college, I'm going to be basically doing this exact same thing someday. I'll be being paid more money, but ultimately someone else is going to have control over my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I finished the semester, but I said, I can't do this. I can't not be free.
And even if you're given the day off, you're made to feel terrible about it.
Yes.
Like that's worse than not getting the day off, I think, in some cases.
Yeah. And so the thing is, when as a self-employed person, I have worked far more than 40 hours a week the last 20 years, but there's not a single day that I've worked that I had to.
I think that's a really important point, that I don't think people are afraid of work. I don't think people are generally lazy. I think most people are just trapped in a cycle and a routine that they're
uninterested.
It just drains their energy rather than reinvigorates them, which I think I would be happy to spend 80 hours a week doing the shit that I loved.
I'm traveling around right now. Every single weekend, I'm doing 4 clinics, 4 2-hour clinics, and I'm doing 1 or 2 full-day seminars. So I'm teaching 6 classes a week in person, and I'm also teaching my online class, which is twice every couple Tuesdays a month. So just teaching alone is like a full-time job on top of all the marketing, scheduling, all the other businesses that I run. Like I work I'm not complaining, but I mean, I work really, really hard. But every single seminar, if I didn't want to schedule one that day, I didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference. It's I am free. You're never completely free if you need to earn a living. you're still a slave to like having to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as someone else controlling. And so now let me be clear about something. Like I said earlier about finding your own path. This is not that this is a superior way to live or that I'm better than anybody because of it. Because my best friend, who's really, really successful, the last thing in the world he would ever want to do is run his own business and have that responsibility. He loves the fact that he's a senior database programmer for Oracle database programmer. He makes great money.
And he can shut his brain off.
And when he's done working,
5:00.
he can give 2 shits about business, and he can forget all about it. When he takes off for 2 weeks, doesn't think about it. Like I wake up and start working. So it's not like, do I have a better life than him? Yes, for me. He wouldn't have a better life doing what I do because it's the exact opposite. When he's with his kids, he doesn't think about work at all.
It comes back to knowing
it's finding
yourself.
what he wants. And he loves the fact that he just gets the paycheck and doesn't, So it's not that my way's better. It's my way's better for me.
Sure. I want to jump ahead here and
Please.
get into Blue Power disc golf.
Yes, happy to talk about
Let's
that.
talk about that a little bit. Let's get some origin stories and where we are. Bring us up to date with that.
For the
Okay.
record, we almost dyed our beards blue just to make you feel really comfortable and welcome today.
So blue power was something
I
that
dyed
did.
my eyebrow hairs blue.
Yeah, and then you
But-
shaved them
yeah,
off.
but
so
I-
they were too long.
but
There was
just-
like 3
yeah, it
inches.
was
Just the one long
Sad to hear you.
Yeah.
So basically, what blue power was when I came back to the sport in 2015, and I've told this story a million times, so I won't have to rehash it. But I quit. I didn't play from 2001 till 2014. A lot of those years went well. Towards the end, it didn't go well. Substance abuse, had some big problems. Really like the lowest point in my life in 2013, 2014. Came back to the sport and was looking for things that gave me value. And coming back to the sport and getting praise for being good at Frisbee and all those things gave me value. But I was still seeking more things. So what I did was I said, well, the short of it is I was running my clinics, my professional clinics. And I used to say that they are for everyone because they were free, right? Every one of my clinics I did, I've done more than 500 clinics, disc golf throwing clinics for free in 500 cities. I said they are totally inclusive. They're free. Everybody can come. And then someone pointed out to me, they said, yeah, but what if someone has autism? How does that include them? And I went, it's free. Oh, shit, you're right. And I realized that it wasn't. And it was kind of like this epiphany that, oh, you know what? It's not really for people in wheelchairs. It's not really for someone who's blind. And I was trying to be inclusive by making it free. And by the way, I'm very proud of that fact. I'm not shitting on myself. Like, I'm very proud of doing all that free. But I realized that
How dare you?
Yeah. But I realized it could have been more. But I can't teach my professional throwing clinic and include information for someone with autism or someone in a wheelchair because it's a different topic. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I said, when I do my clinics, I'm going to do a separate clinic an hour before, also free, for anybody who my regular clinic isn't for. And so when I'm coming to town and I have a 5 p.m. clinic, I'll just advertise that at 4 p.m. is open to anyone with special needs. It started off as autism, but it became special needs.
Mm-hmm.
If the regular clinic ain't for you, I'll come an hour early. It could be one person, it could be bus loads, and it's been both. And I said, I'll just teach a class for them. And this is actually, if I can, I feel like I'm being all preachy. Is that it's not the case?
Do your thing.
Okay.
Not at all.
So here's one of the lessons I've learned. It's this thing called paralysis by perfection. Is when you have this really cool idea of something you want to do and you plan and you plan and you plan, you try to get all your ducks in a row and try to
Right.
get everything and figure out and factor in all the contingencies and all the scenarios that could go right, could go wrong, all the equipment and all the volunteers and all the permits. And next thing you know, it's like that idea I had 18 months ago hasn't happened. That's a really bad way to get things done, in my opinion. So what I did was I just said, okay, it was out in Northern California. It was in Arcata. I said, or Crescent City was the first one. I said, I'm going to come up an hour early and I'm going to run a class for kids and adults with special needs. And I advertised it. And then I posted it. And then I went,
Now what?
how do I do this? I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no
Yeah.
idea how to teach. I knew that if I posted it and I committed to it, okay, now I better damn well figure it out because it is scheduled. And so then I had to come up with a curriculum and come up with all these things. And as much as I was able to figure out, by the time the class came, that's what I had to work with because the class is scheduled. And on the first class, nobody came. So it was really easy. It was an easy class. but I didn't just do the one. I scheduled multiple. So the second one in Arcata, 3 people came. And then that was the start of it.
Mm.
The person I was traveling with, a woman, her son had autism. So that's where I kind of learned a little bit about the community. That's who first asked me, well, what about if my son had wanted to come? And I went, oh yeah, I guess it wasn't for him.
Mm.
That relationship didn't work out, but I'd seen the challenges, she was a great mom, and I saw the challenges that she faced as a parent, and that's what kind of got me inspired to do it. Even though the relationship didn't work out, I was now connected to the community.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm coming to town to do a clinic, and I'd get messages. Oh, cool. What time's the special needs class? And now it's just a thing.
Yeah.
You've got a direct line to Sean's heart right now because Sean and you did this was like the ethos of the Terry Miller episode was just start. I don't remember what the name of the episode was, but like
Just dive in.
just dive in.
yeah.
you have
just
to.
jump right into it.
Yeah. And people call me all the time and they said, like, this is not, probably once a month. Someone contacts me. They're like, oh, I want to teach a class at this special needs school. Or I want to run this event. How do I do it? I go, schedule it. then call me back. I don't want to talk to you before you schedule it. Schedule it, then I'll talk to you. Like that comes first because then you're just committed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, here's the other thing. You're not going to screw it up.
Or if you do, you'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Like,
but you won't. Like, okay, how do I teach a kids class? Really, you're going to show up with a bunch of Frisbees and a couple baskets and the kids aren't going to have fun? Like, you can't screw this up.
Yeah.
Well, you think a busload of kids with Down syndrome are going to come out to your special needs class and they're going to be like,
they're not going to have a good time.
they're going to be like, oh, that was bullshit. Like that's not what
God,
happens.
that's a funny image.
But it doesn't happen. Everybody just has a good time. And the thing is, with the special needs communities, you cannot plan. I figured this out. You cannot make a plan because every group is different. Every age group, different levels of cognitive ability, physical, developmental, small group, big group. I could have a van full of like say 6 kids, say young adults, high functioning, medium to high functioning autism who live in an assisted living home, and then a mom who brings out her kid in a wheelchair to the same class. Right? You just got to make the shit up. Just make it up as you go, and then and you're not going to get it wrong.
The preparation is attitude, right? Like that's everything.
The preparation is just have the confidence in yourself. The confidence is that you will figure it out. Well, what happens if this happens? You solve it. Like it's almost like someone says to me when they're asking about it, they're like, well, what happens if I'm going to cut you off right here. You solve it, but you don't know what I was going to ask. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Right.
Questions irrelevant. You'll solve it. And if you don't solve it, like,
You learn from
the
it.
world doesn't stop spinning.
Yeah.
I had a very poignant life lesson that was exactly the same. I had a piece of shit Volkswagen GTI that I drove to work every day. And any time it was wet outside, the steering belt would squeak like crazy. And my boss called it the screaming Mimi because he could hear me coming from miles away. And I didn't know that the problem was I just needed to tighten the belt. So when I got to work one day, I got under the car and I cut that belt off because I thought I needed to replace it. And my boss immediately was like, why did you cut that belt off? And I was like, because I needed to replace it. And he was like, do you know how? And I was like, I hadn't gotten that far. And it's the same, like I started it before I had figured it out. Later on, I remember days later, he was like, I give you all the credit in the world because you didn't know what you were doing, but you knew how to start it. And you knew if you started it, you had to fix that.
We give this lesson all the time because we're full-time nomads. You know, I mean, everything we own, aside from work stuff being my golf bag, maybe merchandise to sale, my tour clothing. Aside from that, every single thing the two of us own, we can fit into 2 backpacks. Like we don't have a storage unit. We don't have a home base. We don't have a box of stuff at our parents' house. We own 6 shirts, 3 pairs of shorts, 3 pairs of underwear, 3 pairs of socks, our shoes, our phones, our bathroom stuff, and medicine and a laptop. That's it. A couple hats.
Hats.
That's it.
Gotta have those hats.
Right. So we're full-time nomads. And people ask us all the time, they're like, well, what if you're in a city and stop? You solve it. Mm-hmm. But what if you need stop? You buy it. Well, what if they don't have it? Stop. You do without. You don't need to know the details. It's that paralysis by perfection it's that anxiety of the unknown. And people don't trust their own ability. Like everybody, like what happens if the water heater stops working at my house? I don't know anything about water heaters. Yeah, but what you do know is that 100% of people, barring financial reasons, whose water heater breaks end up with a water heater that works. No one who has the money has ever been like, oh, I've taken cold showers for 18 months. I'll never figure this out.
I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But the anxiety over what am I going to do if it happens is real. And it's like, no, you can trust yourself.
My wife was having that too with my child when like she was just figuring out how to start reading. And obviously it's a struggle at first for every 4 or 5 year old to like even get them to be interested in it. And my wife was like, what if it takes her too long? I was like, how many adults do you know that don't read? Everybody knows how to read. She'll figure it out. It's going to happen.
People ask that, like, what if I move? Like, I hate where I live. I'm like, well, then you need to move. Well, like, okay, well, that's easier said than done. Well, of course, it's not easy. It's a challenge, right? But here's the question: how many people came to your town who moved there that didn't have a job lined up are currently sleeping in the park? I'm not talking about homeless people with mental health issues, but regular people that are, that functional members of society that move to a new town. 0 are currently living in the park. Everyone solves it. So it's like it can be scary, it can be anxious, but don't not do it. Trust you'll solve it.
Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it. Yeah.
So is that when you have a clinic where you have people that have challenges in their life, do you approach that with that like do you try to put that thought into their head as well?
I mean, like the special needs classes?
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, developmental and physical are two totally different things.
For sure.
With developmental issues, I just basically am very soft and kind and gentle and positive and just work with their own abilities, trying to find what things are going to make them happy, see what they can do, try to get them wins. When people have physical disabilities, I'm just mean to them.
Yeah, that's
Fair enough.
That's the way.
The way to go.
Yeah.
No, if you don't believe me, there's a video when I was like, when I was in Germany and I played around at disc golf against maybe the best wheelchair disc golfer in the world, and I smoked him. And he's like, I played from a wheelchair also.
Oh
Yeah, we
wow.
both played from wheelchairs. But it's like, look, there's people in wheelchairs who will get better at playing in a wheelchair than I ever could because they're experienced in playing in wheelchairs.
Right.
But if you've been playing the sport 1 or 2 years, you're not going to beat me in a wheelchair because I have less experience in the wheelchair, but I got 40 years of experience, right? That's just reality.
That's fascinating.
He's like, man, did you have to like beat me like so badly in my home course? I'm like, yes. Like we were competing. And from my experience, people with physical disabilities are so much mentally stronger on average than regular people at large. And yet people want to go gentle on them. And I'm like, they're way tougher than you, brother. Like, they like, look at what they do every day just to make it through their day.
Right.
Like, if they can do that, they can handle jokes. I've never met a person with a physical disability that got offended at jokes. I've yet to see it.
Right. It's people that aren't even.
They get offended for them.
What is that about?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I had a person on my podcast who was a disc golfer who had one arm, and I asked him what other sports you played and when you were younger. He says, "Well, I used to swim," and I said, "Was the pool like in a circle?" Right? I'm like, "That's funny," but he laughed. He laughed his ass off because it's like, I'm not gonna so like when I say I'm mean, I'm not mean. I mean, these are my people.
Yeah,
but
that's
it's like,
love.
I'm gonna do
Honestly,
it.
that's love.
Love for
It's
sure.
if you treat them the way you treat everybody else, that's love.
I treat them. They're just one of the guys or one of the girls.
Yeah.
Oh boy, don't want to get on a soapbox here, but they're not one of the guys and girls who are like maybe a little more sensitive than they were when I was younger. They're basically like the way all of us were in the 70s. Like we had a sense of humor. So yeah, so I'm not mean, except when they're mean to me, which they are.
Sometimes, yeah. It's okay
Like,
to call
who the
that
hell do you
out.
think you are? Be mean to me. And by the way, I hate the word inspirational, and usually they do too. It's like it's not an inspiration to get up and go to work. I knew a woman who was who taught at high school in a wheelchair, and people said, "Oh my God, you're so inspirational." She's like, "Why? Because I have a job." I'm not like, don't call me inspirational. That's insulting.
Yeah, right.
So this, but by the way, it took me a long time to learn this. Like
Yeah.
I still treaded very, very softly at first until I learned, okay, I can get away with this. Then I'm like, oh shit, I can say whatever I want to you.
Game on.
You're gonna
Yeah,
game
I
on.
think- I
By the
think
way,
people's hearts are in the right
well, and
place.
they'll give it back too.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyways, that's I've come to like people like who have any type of challenge in life. Generally, are a little easier to get along with because they're not as soft.
I have 2 more questions before, and then we have the mailbag to get to.
For sure.
All right. So on the subject of just diving in and figuring things out, you're obviously very entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
From writing the book to your own barbecue sauce, you have just jumped in and figured things out. And the book and the barbecue sauce are 2 things that specifically I'm fascinated by. I want to know. So the book, it's you and Aaron Rath are the names on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
How did you approach this situation where you're like, I'm going to write a book? Or how did this idea come to?
All right, this
How
is
did it come
this
to you
is a
and
great story. This is
Yeah.
another kind of like lesson. At least if I'm in that role, I think I am at times. Aaron Rath was an employee of mine when I was running my internet businesses. He did programming and other graphic design work for me, and we just stayed friends. And he's also written a bunch of books. He's a very good writer. Here's how the book came about. So it started with my entire life. I always said I'm going to live a life that is worth writing a book about. Like whether that turns out good or bad, it's not going to be boring. And I think I accomplished that part. But I wanted to write the book. I always wanted to write a book, but it obviously takes a lot of time. So I lost my job doing software sales in Fort Collins, and there was only a couple companies, and I couldn't get in with those companies there. So I had to take a job in Denver, which was an hour each way commute. And I was like, that's 10 hours a week in a car. Well,
I know that pain. So
I'm like, well, I am not wasting 10 hours a week in the car listening to music. So instead, what I did is I took my phone, I drew an outline, and every day to and from work, I recorded my autobiography onto my phone.
Cool.
This just in: Scott Stokely hates music.
Yes, just in. No, I just was like, I couldn't imagine like just wasting that time. You know, like, oh my God, I can't wait to get there. Let me just turn my brain off for an hour. I'm like, 10 hours a week,
No way.
500 hours a month. That's crazy to me. You know, like I'm going to make use of that time. So then I did that. I recorded it. Aaron Rath transcribed it. And then we went through the editing process. Took like 12 months of editing or something. So
Okay.
that's how that came about.
I have a question, and I've been dying to ask this. I read this book maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think. From the moment that I finished the book, I have been wondering, and it's directly related to you possibly recording in the car, whatever. There are so many dates, and there are so many places, and there are so many names that it is unfathomable to me that someone could recall all of that without researching, taking the time to go back.
It's
Is
actually
that
no,
how-
it's actually quite easy.
I knew you were going to say that, but I cannot imagine
No.
how that works.
Sure,
Sean has the ability as well.
No. It's actually way easier than you think.
Ah.
So the majority of the stories took place in or around disc golf tournaments. Go to pdj.com, year by year, tournament by tournament. Oh, the Ohio State Championships. Okay, I got third place there. Okay, Steve Wise Cup won, and nothing really happened. Next tournament, Mississippi Open. Oh, that's when I met Scott Markin. Oh, that's right. Boom,
Okay.
story.
So there was a little bit of that. It's not just
No. I just went through I could see every single tournament I ever played, barring some overall tournaments, distance tournaments, which there's not that many of those I could remember. So yeah, so all the records were there. And then that just was a springboard to the memory.
Sparks it, yeah.
Wow, I finished. I didn't finish well at that tournament. What happened? Oh, that's right. That one night, the night before,
because I'll get messages from like former classmates and I won't even remember their name, like that I even knew them. And I'm like, how the fuck did Scott do this in this book? Like every page is just names and dates and places.
No,
It's crazy.
I also really wanted to make sure that it was accurate because it's also a history of disc golf. And I did my
It is,
very
very
best.
Oh,
much so.
very much it is.
Yeah.
I tried so hard to make sure I got the names right and the dates right and got the stories right. It was really important to me to not get it wrong. So I could research stuff and I would make phone calls. Like every story in the book that was about somebody, I sent them the story and said, "Are you comfortable with me telling that story?" I had a couple people tell me no.
Okay.
Like,
I
'cause-
can imagine because there's a
What
couple
are those stories?
in there.
Yeah. Give it to
There's just a couple of stories in there where I thought, I wonder if the person knows that this is published. I'm really
100%.
happy to hear that they
everybody
are.
signed off on it because there was a couple of stories where they're like, "Look, that's a great story. I got kids now.
Yeah, right.
Don't post that story." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is not a tell-all. These weren't important stories, anyways. These are just side stories about that one night."
Sure.
And we got rid.
I wanted to touch on that though, because if any listeners who hear this and they're wondering if they should check this book out, like, oh my God, yes, check the book out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
available
definitely.
at Amazon.com, and I recorded the audiobook myself.
Oh, I
I
didn't
didn't
know there
even
was that
read
too.
it. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
I read the audiobook. It took 2 weeks to do it because I actually had a professional sound engineer and actually it was done professionally. Basically, I tried my best. I tried so hard and put so much time and effort into doing effectively a mediocre job reading it. And then by the time they were done with it, it sounds fantastic. It sounds like I'm really good at this.
That's what I have to do to all these guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does it. to
I'm
me.
not. I wasn't good. I was okay, but the engineer, took out all the breath noises, took out all the ums, put all the spacing in between every sentence. Like one of the things you don't notice when you listen to an audiobook, and by the way, the fact that you don't notice it is a testament to how well it's done. For example, all the time gaps between paragraphs and between chapters are the exact same length. And because of that, you don't notice the gaps between chapters and paragraphs because that's just the flow of the book. You take out the breath noises, you take out the ums, you adjust the audio so when I'm away from the microphone and towards the mic, and next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, like I sound so good when it was. I honestly, I gave myself an honest to God a C+, and at the end result is it's an A-.
Listeners should understand that is how every episode of the show goes.
For sure.
We are all B, C level podcasters.
I'm solid,
but Ryan makes us sound like A's
Yes.
easily.
No, it's true.
A-holes. A's, yeah. A's, for sure.
Oh, by the way, as far as the barbecue sauce,
Yes,
I
that
can
California, all the
I
way.
will sum up that barbecue sauce in 2 sentences.
California all the way.
In just 2 sentences. Sentence number 1, my phone call to Adriana where I said, "Hey, just a heads up, I just spent $20,000 on barbecue sauce."
before you tell me the second sentence, I, in my head, was like, somebody must have reached out to you that was a fan and was like, Scott, we should put your name on barbecue sauce. Is that how it happened? Or did you go, I'm going to make some damn barbecue sauce? Like, how did...
I don't know how it wound up in this position, but someone contacted me and they said, hey, we want to put your face on barbecue sauce. This is exactly how it happened. And by the way, she's behind me. Shake your head if I'm making up a word of this. This was the conversation. Hey, I want to put your face on barbecue sauce. Yes. And then the person said, wait, we haven't even discussed money yet. And I said, I already said yes.
Wow.
Shut up and take my
money. Is it still available? I just finished my fourth. Like,
okay, I just finished. So the first sentence was, I just spent $20,000 on barbecue sauce. The second sentence is, would you like to buy $19,000 worth of barbecue sauce?
It would be $19,030.
We just now. It's been around for 2 years. It was a flop. We just decided to get rid of it. It might still be good, but it's not at this point. You know, I'm not selling enough to justify any risk of it might not be. Look, if I was making millions of dollars, I would risk giving you salmonella.
Sure,
but I won't risk.
It's a shame. I enjoyed every single bottle.
For
they
were great
a month.
There was 4 different flavors. I enjoyed them all.
They're on rotation on the top shelf of the door.
Yeah, the shipping costs and the labeling. It was a bad idea, but it wasn't a bad idea. The reason it wasn't a bad idea was because the reason I have been successful is because I try stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to have things that have worked, some things fail. But the mindset of I'm going to try it is the exact same mindset that said I'm going to write a book, the exact same mindset that said I'm going to golf carts, the exact same mindset that said I'm going to do seminars all over the country. Like, it's the exact same approach. And it just happened to flop. But so what?
It was good, man.
It's great sauce. It's wonderful barbecue sauce. It's like spend an extra $1 a bottle to make it real sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup, which was like 30% more cost, which from a business, that's a bad move.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, no, it's better with real sugar. But yeah, whatever though. I mean, you try stuff.
I guess the reason I asked you is because I wanted to understand if you are proactively going, where can my next successful venture come from? And you're just, you have ideas or was this and the book and some of these other things, like people are coming to you because they want to work with you and you're just getting to pick from like, there's this opportunity.
They're all my idea. So here, I'm gonna go off into a complete self-congratulatory rant.
We do that constantly.
Do you do that?
You're great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what I enjoy. So I am the first player to write their autobiography. I'm the first player to run throwing clinics. I'm the first player to run traveling events. I'm the first player to merchandise at Tournament Central. I'm the first player to travel around the country doing private lessons. I'm the first person to do full-day seminars. I'm the first person to do video lessons. I had the first signature series disc that made a good living, that were actually paid real money. I'm the first person to sell mystery boxes for my store. I'm the first person to do Disc of the Month Club. Every way that players make money, I basically did all of them first. And by all, put quotes around all. But that's what's fun to me. What's fun to me is making up the ideas.
Seeing what sticks.
I could never buy a franchise. I don't care how much money it makes. That would just bore the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I like coming up with ideas, but it doesn't mean every idea is good.
Yeah, there's got to be. Yeah,
of course there's bad ideas.
Barbecue sauce.
I want my baby back.
Yes, but so for me, like, it's innovating. I want to innovate. I want to come up with new ways. I started, I'm the first person to offer this interactive online class. Not the first person to do an online course. I believe Will Schustrick did that first. But my class is live. It's interactive. You go to scottstokely.net. You can sign up for my 6-month online class. There's online form reviews. You're constantly uploading videos. So it's a fully interactive class. And I'm the first person to do that. And other people are doing online classes. There'll be people that do it like mine. And it doesn't bother me a bit because by the time they're copying me, I'm off to doing something else first.
Sure.
And that's what I enjoy. But that's also high risk. Like that leads to failing a lot more. but I'd rather fail and have fun than.
That's why you were
You know.
able to write a book, because you got stories, because you've been trying things, you've been exploring.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
no, nobody who's like, look, nobody with a a 2-parent household, like who was raised with a stable family setting and had a successful life, has ever written an autobiography worth reading. It's like you got to fuck up to have an interesting life. Is not that I wish that upon anybody, but it is a lot more fun than look at how great I am. Look at what I did. Because in my book, I'm very honest. I don't hold back on, like I said, I don't share other people's stories.
Yeah.
There's not a single story about me that I won't share. It's like I actually decided before I wrote the book that I was either going to be completely honest or not write the book. And that was not, I didn't immediately make the decision to write the book. I had to really think about this because once you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Like once I tell people that I was sleeping in my van before a tournament and that I had a dream that I had gotten up and left the van to go to the bathroom and then I pissed in my sleeping bag. Like once you tell that story, you can't untell it.
Right.
So now everybody has read my book, but it's not an interesting book if it's just like, wow, look at how cool I am. Look at all the cool shit. I mean, I did so many cool things, but then I've also failed as much as I've succeeded.
I cannot overstate to listeners how compelling the book is. I know you're not, for the record, Scott's not here to promote his book. He just agreed to do the show because you were telling us before. You told us before you say yes to pretty much every podcast interview opportunity.
Of course, I'm here to promote my business and my that is.
I'm doing it for you because I'm so
Thank you.
in love with it.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, go to Amazon go to scottstokely.net and I'll get the extra 4% affiliate commission. So go to scottstokely.net to buy the book.
he just threw up a thumbs up for you guys.
No, I forgot we set up an affiliate program so I could be an affiliate to my own book and get an extra 4%.
Because that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot more things, but I think the fun way to do this is let's do 1 minute or 2 minutes of speed round questions. Boom. Throw a quick question. You get you got to answer it without a whole story. Just quick answer.
Okay.
Speed dating
Okay,
questions.
I will try, but if I have a story, I can't stop myself. Coffee.
I know I'm putting everybody on the spot, so I'll try and get us started. Hold on. Name a podcast you love aside from Joe Rogan.
Aside from Joe Rogan. Oh, Jim Cornette. Easy.
Damn it. I want to expand on that because I don't know who that is, but next question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody know?
No.
Okay.
Well, we're just a Google search away, so don't worry.
Yeah.
He's the best.
What do you think the worst invention or idea in disc golf thus far has been?
That's such a good question.
Oh my God. Okay, now that's a tough one without thinking about it. The worst invention in disc golf. Okay, so I'm gonna this is gonna sound like I'm not answering the question. There is no such thing as a bad invention in disc golf.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Because everything is trying something, and every single stupid disc configuration that's outside the box, right? Every single one of them is amazing because that might have been the thing that made it fly 8% farther and changed the game and made that person a millionaire. So how can you say it's a bad idea? There's a disc that Jan Sobel from Destiny/Dynamic, the original Dynamic disc in the 80s came out with called the Dimple. And it was just a crappy little disc that had a bunch of dimples on it, just like a golf ball. Mm-hmm. And it was not a good disc. But how do you know it's not a good disc until you make the thing?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So is it a bad invention? No. It was a brilliant invention that didn't fly well. So no, I really,
Yeah, fair enough. That's
Good
fine.
question. Smart answer.
kind of. I know that's, by the way, I know that's a crap answer.
It's fine.
But
It's
it's
good.
it's really what I believe.
It's your answer.
Yeah.
It's
It's good.
respectable. All right, here's mine. How far away are we from having DGPT Masters coverage, specific Masters events, Masters only, as much as we are seeing Disc Golf Pro Tour right now?
In my opinion, when is that going to happen?
Yes.
It won't. And not because I don't want it to, not because these aren't my friends, not because I'm not the candidate that might fit into that category. But where do we see that in other sports? The only sport I can think of where the Masters ever had anything was golf, because it was an individual sport that you could do when you're older. So you can't do boxing and stuff when you're older. And some of these people had names, but even then, the only time the Masters, as a kind of a passive fan, was when you had Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus. You had these iconic names that I don't think you have in today's golf game since Tiger and Phil. Right? I'm not saying they're not better now, but they're not iconic like those names. And even then, that was once or twice a year. Sports is about the pinnacle of human ability. It's oh, that model has an unobtainable level of beauty. Oh, no, it's like sports is about an unobtainable level of athleticism that the rest of us can't do. I don't want to watch average people play basketball. I want to see LeBron play basketball.
Why you got to call out the Irish?
Yeah, call it the Irish. No, you know what I'm saying? Like that's like I don't want to see. I don't care who you are. I don't want to see brown belts fight in a karate tournament, even if they're brown belts because they're 50, which is so impressive. Like that's not what I watch sports. So I don't think it'll happen, even though I wish it would.
That's a great answer. Badass. Oh, Jason.
Can I DM you on Instagram every once in a while when I'm feeling blue, and you could just send me an inspirational message every once in a while?
Yeah, I answer all my messages.
Okay,
when he's
very
pooping.
good. Yep, that's all I need.
Between 9 and 10 a.m.
You inspired me tonight, and I look forward to talking to you in the future about your inspiration.
So I live for this, though. Like, this is not something that I mean, look, I take it very serious that people look up to me.
They have to at year 6, 7.
That's it, right.
Yes.
Yes.
Let 'em.
No, but I mean, this is a huge responsibility. Like, I have an obligation. Like, I really, at least I feel like I do. Now, I don't feel like anybody else does. Like, I don't think you're automatically, because you're an athlete, you're a role model. That's bullshit. You're not required to be a role model. But if you choose to be a role model, then you have an obligation. So I have an obligation to teach and be a mentor like the mentors to me. So anytime I can teach and share what I know, I've failed more than anybody that I know. So therefore I have knowledge to share.
Very cool to hear you say that, because as a 35-year-old person, I'm looking up to you, and I've been so looking forward to this interview.
Then why did you argue when I was telling you not to smoke again? Don't do it.
I have no rebuttal to that.
Okay,
but that is the reason I've been looking forward to this interview. Is not because you're such an accomplished disc golf legend. It's because you're a very fascinating human. I'm very grateful we've had this time. Okay, so now we've covered a lot. There's a ton left uncovered, but we are going to hear from some of our listeners' questions. So
that's because it's
mail time.
Mail time.
Mail time.
I am the male in the room, and it's time to listen to me.
Let's get it. Jason, take us into the mail.
That wasn't too bad. That was not too bad. All right. Our first question of the night is going to come from 54. I just did the math from earlier when you said your age.
Good job. Good
I am
job.
54.
It just this whole time.
107. Cut
Finally.
it in half.
It's one of those
Christ's
old
sake.
school machines. It was just
Oh,
going
and
God, I was not going to be able to sleep tonight, and then it all came to me. Ryan Stilson has our first question.
Hey.
What were some of your favorite molds/brands when you were trying out all the smaller / not well-known companies out there?
So Castoplast a few years ago was a smaller company. They're not anymore, but I obviously love the Berg. I love the Baobab from AGL. I liked the Penny from Lone Star. I thought the Penny was a fantastic disc, very underrated. I think those are probably the ones that really stuck out.
Nice.
I think he will be happy to hear that you liked the AGL disc,
Yes, he will be.
because he is sponsored by Gateway. And
Yeah. Oh yeah, Josh is a great guy, great company. Everyone is. I like everybody.
Yeah.
All the companies. Like I don't know anybody there out there I don't like, and I root for the small guys. I root for the pro shops. In fact, I'm going to do a post. I'm about to do a post shortly, not just to kiss your ass because you bought me pizza,
Hey.
but because I might sleep with you because you bought me pizza.
all right, now we'll talk.
Hey,
But I won't kiss your ass. No, I want to make a post about how it's really important that people support the pro shops, because the pro shops put the courses in the ground. They run the leagues. They put in new benches with the 25% of the ace pool money they add to the bench fund. It's really important as Christmas is coming up to just go to the shop. Like I know Amazon's easy. Go down to the shop, buy from the pro shop. It's important.
Amen.
I mean, it's better for all of us. Do it out of your own self-interest. Support the people that are going to put another course in the ground you get to play. So do it for selfish reasons.
Seems
That
so
means a lot.
obvious. Yep.
Yes, sir.
For sure. Paul Letty is going to have our next question. He said he just finished your book earlier today when he posted this, and he absolutely loved it, especially the history of the sport. The book ends with you uncertain about your future. What would chapter 40 look like?
Ooh, good question.
Well, according to GTP, who wrote chapter 40 already. So the reason why the book ended so abruptly, because I'm working on the next book right now. Yeah, no, there's going to be I plan on my life story being a trilogy. And after I get to the third book, I'm going to probably write it and update it every year because you can't end a trilogy and live for 20 more years, right? So
Correct.
my plan on the third book is possibly to keep writing.
That Darth Vader is your father.
Yes,
Yeah.
every
Okay,
single
yeah.
year, right? And then when I die, that it will be at least up to the last year of my life. That'll be my trilogy.
Cool.
But the second book is obviously the middle story. But the reason it ended so abruptly was because that was a metaphor for what I did with my career. When I decided to stop playing, I just went, I'm done. And I just stopped going to tournaments. I just disappeared. I got rid of all my discs. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't make any phone calls. I didn't announce anything. I just stopped. And everybody wondered what the hell happened to me. I just wasn't at the tournament this year. And then all of a sudden I wasn't at the tournament next year. And then people didn't know. And so I kind of thought, hey, why don't I end my book when I stopped playing with that same kind of like, well, that was a weird ending, because that's kind of what happened.
And then you came back.
Yeah, 14 years later.
Book
And that's
two.
where
Book
book two
two.
starts. Hell yeah.
No. Book 2 starts the day after book 1 ends.
Oh,
Oh,
so we
no,
get the dark chapters.
Oh yeah, the bad years. Well, no, there weren't all bad years. There, of those 13 years, the first 10 were really good. I was making a shit ton of money on the internet, having a lot of fun. It just
OnlyFans?
It was Scott Stokely.
not too
Yeah.
far off. I was having a blast. Let's put it that way.
Uh-huh.
And so then it was only the last few years that it went badly, but when it went badly, it went up in flames. So it's it's all in the book. It'll all be there. I don't hold back.
Very
Oh, yeah.
exciting.
Can't wait.
Interesting. Do we know Paul Letty? That's a new name for
Yeah,
me. Is that
I
a
know
local
Paul.
homie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Next question is coming from Tom Samborski. He wants to know
Samborski.
in all of your travels this year, who are some of the most interesting people you have had the chance to meet, excluding the four of us?
Obviously.
Obviously.
Obviously, the 4 of you. There's 5 of you.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
All right. Yeah, I didn't.
It was pretty
I didn't
clear
make
that
a
David
copy.
Cope
Sorry.
didn't count.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
The most interesting people that we met. I met the top disc golfer from Ukraine, and by I'm not going political on this, I'm not whatever, but I'm just going to tell you the facts as they happened. We met him and his wife and his son. He was allowed to leave the country because, as a professional disc golfer, he was considered a professional athlete who needed to travel for work. So the Ukraine government recognized disc golf as a real sport. Just like if you're like a traveling musician, you need to leave the country sometimes. But he could only leave for 10 days because, as a male in Ukraine between the ages of 15 and 50, they could call you tonight and say you need to be at war tomorrow.
Sure.
No, that's up for everybody. In fact, actually, a quick aside to that story, we had met somebody who had a developer who worked in the Ukraine who called him one night and he said, "Oh, just so you know, I can't," because he was working remotely. "Just so you know, I can't work. I just got a phone call. I need to go to war tomorrow." And then went to war, and they got murdered a couple weeks later.
Oh my God.
But the
The
person
lengths some people go to get out of work.
I know, exactly. But anyways, it's so normalized because it's it's just that's just something that's happening, right? So we meet him from the Ukraine, real nice guy, and his wife and his kid, but you could tell there's a hardness to them. They're going through stuff that none of us can relate to this. What this was like. So we're sitting there, we're walking to dinner, all of a sudden his phone beeps. And he pulls out his phone and he goes, "Oh, darn it." And I'm like, "What?" He says, "Well, there's incoming rockets into my city." And I'm like, wait, what? He says, "Oh yeah, we have an app that tells you when there's incoming Russian rockets." And I'm like,
Wow.
Like what? He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It doesn't tell you where they're going to hit, but it gives you the city name and how many minutes you have. Because if you have 4 minutes, you can get to a shelter. If you only have 1 minute, you get to a bathtub." Wow. And then just he goes, "Yeah, I hope no one I know dies. Anyways, where do you guys want to go eat?" And I was just like, wait, back up here.
It's giving me chills.
But it's already so normal that they've built an app to let you know. And that was such a fascinating, it's horrible, but the fact that has almost become oh yeah, I hope no one I know dies.
Yeah, fascinating.
It's oh, Jesus Christ, that's the real world. Anyways, he was probably one of the most interesting people. He was a great guy. I mean, really nice guy. Him and his whole family was great. Yeah, I mean, that's probably not to be on a downer or anything, but it's that's just the real world.
The reality
it
is
is.
When you
Yeah.
travel around the world, that's one of the
Yeah.
things you get to see is that life is different than here. For instance, you get to, in Southeast Asia, we got to see what actual poverty was, not American poverty, actual poverty, right? Not I don't have the most modern current iPhone. This is last year's iPhone because I'm poor. It's shut up.
Yeah.
That's not poor. So yeah, you get to see these things, and it's hate to say it puts it in perspective. That's such a cliche, but it just makes you go, oh yeah,
Come on,
life's
walking around
different.
playing disc golf is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, we're pretty damn
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah.
Joseph Bennick has our
Joey
next
Three Putt.
question. Joey Three Putts. Is it fair to consider Scott Stokely the Dolly Parton of disc golf? On second thought, please don't ask him that. So let's pretend like I didn't and move on. Dan Rebholz has our next question.
By the way,
I'm gonna
so check
answer
this
that.
out. I am going to answer this right now. So first off, I absolutely love Dolly Parton, and I always thought she was okay. She's a talented musician, but then there's this interview with her with Barbara Walters floating around. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
The recent one where where Barbara
Yeah.
Walters is just awful to her,
Yeah.
and the most experienced, talented, professional, skilled interview in the entire world, and Dolly just runs circles around her.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
dominates her. And it's just like, wow, that like you're looking at genius there, because I wouldn't want to go up against Barbara Walters because she's the best in the world at what she does. And Dolly just crushed her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Google
With
Dolly
kindness.
Parton.
Yeah. Yeah.
With
And
kindness,
just-
but also
and-
just she gave the answer. She's like, yeah, I think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just went, love you, Dolly.
Dan Rebholz. He says, you have always had this positive, nothing gets me down attitude towards life. How long have you had this attitude? And is this a natural gift, or do you have to work on it?
During a lot of my life, I mean, I've been mostly positive, but haven't always been the happiest. The biggest thing that happened, and here's what I recommend everybody do if you really want to be happy.
Spend $20,000 on barbecue sauce.
No,
You bastard.
that won't make you happy. No, I can tell you who it makes happy. There's this guy that makes barbecue sauce in Louisiana who sold $20,000 worth of barbecue sauce. That guy, that's how you make him
It's a
happy.
hell of a
No.
commission. Yeah.
Here's the secret to being happy. Like I said, I told you the secret earlier. That's not true. Here's the actual secret. Everybody should do. In fact, I recommend that you all do this. Go through a really bad divorce.
You hear that, Liz?
You'll thank me afterwards.
Yeah.
No, it was to me, that was the biggest turning point. That was the perspective on, like, that was the worst experience of my life. I think probably next to the death of a child, bad divorce is probably the worst thing a person can go through generally. And then having been through that, everything after that has been like, what could possibly go wrong in my life? It's not that. That was just something that is, that was the worst point in my life. And so now it's like, Jesus Christ, what, I break a leg? It's way better than a divorce.
So tell Dan to have something really traumatic happen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Right?
No. I didn't say something really traumatic. Go through a bad divorce.
Very specific.
Specific.
Very
Specifically that.
specific.
Two more questions. Eric Gunty has one for you.
It's a very well-dressed guy right there.
Yes, he certainly
Well
is. What are your most and least favorite changes in disc golf tournaments since you started?
The best change in disc golf tournaments is everything except for one thing. And I mean that. Every single thing about disc golf is other than one thing, is better than it's ever been. Like, I can't stand that old person that thinks it was automatically better back in your day. Like, you know that guy, right?
Sure.
Oh, several of them.
Oh,
yeah.
it's the stupidest thing. Oh, music was so much better when I was 20. It's like, no. It's better to be 20 and you feel so good when you're 20
Yeah.
that music sounds better.
Right.
Like,
God, that's good. Yeah.
but it's the truth, right? Like, of course, everything's better when you're 20 years old. My God. You're 20, nothing hurts. So yeah, no, there's like, people are like, oh, what can we do to fix disc golf? I get that question to this day. I'm like, what are you talking about, fix disc golf? Like, where is it not crushing? So everything about it's better. Everything from the money to the amount of people on tour, to the respect people get, to the galleries, to the media coverage, to the business opportunities, to the courses. It's all better, except for one thing, which is the worst part, which is as it's gotten bigger, and we're never going to get this part back, is it will never have the camaraderie that it used to. And it's like, oh, wait, no, I don't know about that, because disc golf, look at the camaraderie in disc golf. It's like, yeah, of course there's camaraderie in disc golf. It ain't like it used to, because we're bigger. It can't be. In the old days, everybody that played was a misfit, because nobody understood what we were doing except for each other. Nobody respected it. Nobody understood it, and we all loved it. And so there's that camaraderie. It's like us against the world. And you can't synthetically replace that with an email list, right? So that part is the part that is the only part that's lost. Not say lost, but it's not what it used to be. Everything else is better, though.
We talk about that too.
Yeah.
Not that we were there in the playing in the 70s, but in the time that we've all been doing it, we've seen it
like
shifted.
I said, it was
It's part of the
small.
growing pains. Yeah.
It was small, but then, like I said, nobody got us.
Mhm.
Like you wouldn't even tell your boss why you wanted the time off. Generally,
Mm-hmm.
like, as a rule of thumb, if you told them why, they'd be like, "Oh, well, then no, you have to
Yeah,
work
right.
because this can't be important to you." I mean, God, good luck telling someone you're trying to date. I mean, now if you play disc golf, the ladies just line up.
Yeah.
But back in the old
Don't
days,
we know it? Yeah.
Yeah, back in the old days.
So I'm going to do a little insider baseball on this next one.
Oh, good. I'm good. I got this one.
So I've read this question probably a dozen times since it was submitted via Instagram. And you guys all know I do the Instagram account. And the whole time I was like, why is he being such a jerk? Does he know him? What is the joke? Because I kept reading it as, how did you develop such a huge forehead? But what Clayton Bilefist was really asking,
This particular question is about.
how did you develop such a huge forehand, not forehead?
Oh, God.
And it wasn't until moments ago that I read it and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. It doesn't say forehead, it says forehand. So Clayton Bilefist wants to know, how did you develop such a huge forehand?
He's a great forehand player, so
Yeah.
this
He is.
question makes sense.
Rooster.
So the key to throwing sidearm, you throw a ball. Like I played ball when I was a kid. It's you're throwing a ball. The mechanics of throwing a sidearm are the same as throwing a ball. There's a couple slight tweaks. Your arm slot, getting the elbow in front, following through with your wrist. There's a couple subtle differences, but it's 95% throwing a ball. And the best illustration of this, look at the 8-year-old kids that throw 250 feet sidearm. You've seen these little kids that can just crush their sidearms, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you had the ability to take a video of them throwing sidearm and use CGI to take the disc out of their hand and put a baseball in their hand, and they threw that baseball, it would look completely natural. Basically, they haven't been taught to throw wrong yet. They just pick up an object and throw it. Turns out that was right,
Awesome.
Great answer.
with a couple little tweaks. But you'll never figure it out on your own without paying me for a seminar.
Clayton.
Yeah. All right. I just tied up the mailbag. That was it. We're done with it.
All right.
That.
I just kicked it out of here.
Wow, what an animated way to end the mailbag. Thank you, everybody who submitted your questions.
Thank you,
I
everybody.
just touched the microphone again, and Ryan pretend slapped my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you guys for submitting the questions. We love it. It adds so much to the show. So thank you guys for doing that. And that really is a wrap on this episode. Scott, thank you. Thank you so much for not just for being here and doing the episode, but for coming to our area, for offering your wisdom, for giving so much to communities around the world. Everything that you've shared, I'm pretty confident is making the world a better place in so many ways. So thank you for everything you do. It was awesome to meet you, and I hope listeners I hope they get everything that we got out of this.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. It was great. Thank you for the pizza and coffee.
You know it.
For sure.
We got you.
Well, hopefully this isn't our last episode. I'm sure this isn't the last time you come to Chicago. So let us know next time you come back around. But
I have no idea when I'm coming back because I'm leaving the country again next May, and then I'm going to Europe, and then we're going to Africa and Asia over the winter, and then
Jeez.
I have no idea where I'm going to be after that.
Well, when the second book drops, we'll be here for you.
I will be back in the spring, though.
Spring it is.
Spring it is. Until then, until next time, guys, keep it on the fairway.
Thanks, everyone.
Y'all be good.
Thanks, Eric. Had to give him one. Unstable Discourse is produced by Sheila Callahan. Edited by Ryan Fancher. Beats provided by Alex Seminary. And produced in association with Unstable Disc Golf Gear. Look good, feel good, play good.
Unstable Discourse is a Top Secret Studios production, baby.
I always use Chico's bail bonds